In this video, we're going to explore the two-dimensional nature of chord progressions so that we can make our chord progressions sound more polished and professional. In today's lesson, we'll deal with the horizontal aspect of a chord progression known as voice leading. Stay tuned. I've created a new project with some chord progression examples to demonstrate the concept of voice leading. We've learned that each chord is composed of 3 notes, a bottom, a middle, and a top. We can think of each note in a chord as a voice, just like a voice in a choir, like a soprano and an alto and a tenor. So let's take a look at one of the examples. You'll notice that there's a sizable gap between the top notes of each chord. If I were to sing the top notes of each chord, they jump around a lot. Our goal is to make them jump as little as possible from chord to chord. This is what we call smooth voice leading. We can accomplish this by simply rearranging the notes. So the bottom note of a chord is very important. It's known as the root of the chord, just like the root of a tree is the bottom of the tree. And we want the root to remain the lowest note. So the first step is to make a copy of the root an octave below. So let's take our pencil tool, and this note is an F because this chord is F major. So let's make an F an octave below and make it the same length. And there we go. So now we've duplicated our root. You'll notice that we have 4 notes for this chord now instead of 3 because the root occurs twice. So let's do that with all the chords. So this next chord is C major. Our lowest note is C, so let's find the C and draw it down here. And then this one is G major. So there's G. This is A minor. And then it's the same thing repeated. So each of our chords has 4 notes. Now what we need to do is we need to deal with these jumps and these gaps between the chords. So we have 2 ways that we can do this. We can either take the top note and move it an octave below if we want to bring the chord lower, or we can take the bottom note and move it an octave above. So I'm going to take the bottom note and move it to the top. So this is an F. We're going to move it to the higher F. And we can see that this chord, there's a massive drop now between this top note to this top note. So we're going to do the same thing. And in this case, we might have to do it multiple times to rearrange the chord. So the bottom note is C. We're going to bring it up an octave. And we still have a sizable gap. So we'll take the next note, which is E, and we'll move it up an octave. And so now we can see that our chord moves smoothly in this voice, this top voice. It goes F to E to D. And then back to E. That's as smooth as we can possibly get. And then it jumps here. So we can do the same thing. This goes up to E. And now we have a nice smooth chord progression. So let's move to our second example, which occurs over here. And this time I'm going to play, so I'll take the cycle region and I'll move it over. And I'm going to play the old version. In fact, what we'll do is we'll do a copy. So I'll just move my third example down a little bit. And I'm going to copy this whole thing right to bar 11. Okay, and this will be our old progression 2. So I'll just call this old. And then this one right here will be our new progression 2, just so that we can hear the difference between them before I alter things. So let's go to the chords and let's zoom in. All right, so if you remember, the first step is to duplicate the root of the chord, so that's A. So I'll create an A down here. My next root is D, so octave below, and then C right there, and then G right there. Okay, so we have an A minor chord, D minor chord, C major chord, and G major chord. So now we have to kind of close these gaps. So I'm going to take a different approach. I'm going to let this be the note on top, and I'm not going to move this up. I'm going to move this one down instead. So that's an A. We're going to move it down to a lower A. Now, if you find that it's by lowering things, it bunches up with your root note down here too much, you can always drop it down another octave. Okay, now mine is fine, so I'm just going to leave it there. But just keep that in mind for later. So same thing here. This seems like it's pretty good. Let's see if we can make it actually smoother. So we have an F. Yeah, let's let that be the top note. So I'm going to bring this down an octave. There we go. So now we have it goes up slightly, down, down. And that's perfect. All right, so it's time for our comparison where we compare how it sounds before with how it sounds after. So let's listen to before. Okay, so that sounds okay. Let's listen to after. Okay, so once again, like I said before, you might not actually be able to hear the difference. You might think that they both sound good, or you might not even know why this is better. But the key thing is that it definitely is better. It's, like I said, a more professional sound. So this is what we want to aim for. And as your ears develop, hopefully you'll start to hear that this sounds better than this. Okay, let's go on to our last example, which is over here. And we'll zoom back in. And so we have a bunch of chords going on. We have A minor to C. So let's create our bass notes first. So A minor, which is going to be way down there. Then we have C right there. And the notes are not quite the same length. Okay, I can probably just lengthen these ones a little bit. And then we have G major. So here's G down here. And then this is F major, I believe. So there's an F. And then I'll just copy and paste these because it repeats again. And for some reason it didn't copy this one, probably because I didn't copy it. So that's a C. Let's just create that right there. Okay, and so now we'll go about moving our chords around. So I can already see I kind of want things to be like right in line here. So that goes down an octave. I'm going to bring this one up an octave. And that's not bad. We could probably bring this up an octave too. So that's a G. Okay. Maybe that should have stayed up the octave. Okay. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just we want to kind of avoid some jumps. So let's say instead, for my next part, instead of kind of copying it, I'm going to allow this jump to happen. And then I'm actually going to kind of build up from here. So this is a G. Okay, so there I put the G on top. And that's an F. So we kind of have this nice smooth contour. And then it jumps up a little bit, goes up, and comes down. So this part is a little bit higher. Okay, so they don't have to be the same. And that will actually make it a little bit more interesting, because the whole reason we call this voice leading is this is the top note that we're going to be hearing when we hear the chords. So it's making this melody. Ba, 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 ba. All right, and that's a much nicer melody than when it jumps all around. Okay, let's take a listen as to the other example first. So this was the old example, or sorry, this was the old example. Listen to what the melody sounds like. It's an okay melody, but this is much smoother. and that's kind of what we want. We want to create a melody with that top note. All right, so let's take a listen to this example. Okay, so let's jump back to our demonstration project and let's try the same thing. So I'm looking at the verse, and this is what our verse looks like. So our first chord is F major, and so I'm going to draw an F down here. Then our next chord is G major, so I'll draw a G down there, E minor, and then A minor. Okay, and I'll just delete this one for now. I'll just copy that over. Actually, maybe I'll do them differently. Okay, so I'll copy the bass notes over because they're going to be the same. And let's go and let's make the top voice move smoothly. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to bring this one down an octave. So it's already nice and smooth. So instead of making it super smooth, so they're both on B, I'm actually going to make it jump once here. So it sounds like I don't like jumps. That's not quite true. Jumps actually can make it more interesting. So feel free to allow it to jump once in a while, but not too much. We don't want it jumping all the time. Okay, or maybe I will keep it smooth. So that's an E. I'll bring it down the octave. So now it's really smooth. And this one I'm going to make go up a little bit more. So that's a D. There's E. And there we go. So we have two different ways of doing it for the same chord progression. This one goes down, stays, goes up. This one just goes up the whole time and stays. So here's how it sounds.
I remember when I first saw your face and how everything changed that day. I remember trying hard to ignore the signs, but I couldn't and I didn't know why. I remember when I ran so far, like speeding trains in the passenger car. And I remember that you still came back for me.
So there we have it. That's voice leading in a nutshell. Hopefully that helped. Try it on your projects. Good luck.